to spend some time here because this is where I really want to. He's gonna get heated. All right, just letting you guys know. Okay, we gotta talk about these issues because it's happening.
Well, welcome back. Reports of anti-Semitism have soared in both the UK and the US, and indeed around the world since the Israel-Hamas war began. Many pro-Palestine supporters, however, believe that criticism of Israel is being censored by the claims of hate speech. Last night, Israeli President Isaac Herzog told me that a pro-Palestine march planned on the UK's Armistice Day should be banned. So are claims of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia being used to stifle legitimate criticism and indeed free speech, or are the tensions on our streets in real danger of boiling over? Well, here to debate all this is the founder of the End Jew Hatred movement, Brooke Goldstein, the host of System Update, Glenn Greenwald, and the author of Go Back to Where You Come From, commentator Wajahat Ali. Welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Brooke. I want to read you what you tweeted me recently, because I think this will set the tone for this debate. You said, Piers, I've been on the show. I know you to be a fair journalist, but I don't understand why you're giving these Islamo-Nazis such a large platform over and over again to spread their venom. There comes a point when you have heard their message and you've done your duty. Would you likewise host every single member of the SS in Nazi Germany for the sake of debunking? I hate to say you're not doing a good job at it. Their lies and propaganda are so carefully crafted that the more you put Hamas apologists on, the more effective they become. Asking people to debate them, to debate how many babies were killed, whether it's by beheading or by stabbing or by burning babies alive, is tasteless and disgraces the memory of the innocent Jewish people who've been killed. At what point does your journalism become a propaganda tool for terrorism? They send their best and brightest to you to engage in mental masturbation, acrobatics, and they're running circles around you. With all due respect, enough. In the battle between good and evil, there is no journalistic obligation to continue to put evil on a platform to be debated. So, I mean, that seems to me a pretty strong way to start this debate, because what you seem to be saying is that so long as I have pro-Israeli voices, that's fine. As long as I have a lot of people like you who just have one view of this, then I'm a fair journalist. But the moment I stray into people who are pro-Palestinian in a very passionate manner, then somehow I'm failing in my journalistic duty. And I would say that that right there is part of the problem, Brooke, because I have tried to turn this show into a genuinely fair platform for all sides, all arguments, all voices. And I think we've been getting the audiences that reflects, which is people like it. They like to hear both sides. Why don't you?
So, Piers, thank you for bringing up that tweet. First, I want to say that's not what I'm saying at all. There's pro-Palestinian, there's pro-Israel, but you've been having pro-Hamas people on your platform, and you're giving them an opportunity to spew their virulent anti-Semitism and their propaganda that justifies Hamas terrorism. It's one thing to debate issues of geopolitics and national.
Brooke, can you name one?
Right in front of me, I can't. I was replying to something that
just name
you
one.
Had someone on that I was
Name
replying.
one guest I've had in a month.
You know, I don't have the names on me right now, but I can name someone who is on
Brooke,
right now.
With all due respect, Brooke, with all respect, you tweeted this lengthy attack on me and my journalistic rigor
so
and
I
fairness,
will talk about
and
it.
I'm simply
Let's
asking
talk
you
about,
if you're going to do
that. The people you have on right now.
Hang on, Brooke. Hang on. If you're going to do that, I don't think it's unreasonable to say who. Which of my pro-Palestinian guests expressed support for Hamas? Because I must have missed that.
Wajahat Ali, who is on the show right now with us, for example, has deep connections to the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the mother of all terrorist organizations. It spawned Hamas, a designated terrorist group, which is currently killing both Gazan and Israeli civilians. Wajahat Ali, who is on the platform with me right now, and your audience needs to know this, sat on the board of the Muslim Student Association, which is widely known to be a Muslim Brotherhood entity. He also has writings that are cross-posted on the English language website of the Muslim Brotherhood. He has cross-posted authors who call for the eradication of the Jewish state. He's a leading writer at CAP, the Center for American Progress, which
All right.
also has
Let me
ties
go
to
to
the
a ju-
Muslim Brotherhood.
Let me go
he
to
has
him.
criticized cracking down on the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. And of course, he just published an article saying that he's against Hamas because it's politically
Okay,
expedient to him.
so Brooke,
but he is connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. That's who you have on your show right now.
Before I go to him, you've just said he'd just written a piece condemning Hamas. So you kind of kill your own argument. Let me go to Jahat.
Well, he's sucking and blowing at the same time.
Okay, let me go to the man you've just been.
Let me go to Jahat that they are using right now.
Let me go to the man you've been accusing. Jahat, what do you say to that?
Well, first of all, excellent pronunciation of my name, Brooke. Thank you. Also, it's pretty amazing that for a human rights lawyer, you really don't seem to care much about human beings who happen to be Palestinians or Muslim or Arab. It's like a fireman who's actually an arsonist. But thank you.
I risked my life to make a movie about Arab children. I risked my life to make a movie about Arab children and was given an award by the United Nations for my advocacy work for Palestinian children.
Let him answer.
So good job on doing your research.
Let him answer you, please.
You are the hero and you are the victim. But let me say the following. Let me say that the person who accused me of being the Muslim Brotherhood and the person who's accused us, anyone who's pro-Palestinian, of being a Nazi, which is, by the way, what Brian Mass said, a Republican. He said there's no such thing as Palestinian civilians because they're just like Nazis, right? But anyway, let me say this, because Piers, I've seen your show. I appreciate
Brooke, can you let Wajahat speak, please?
Do you condemn the Muslim Brotherhood?
Let me say this. I'm going to go a step forward. Look at this. This is what I'm going to do, because I've seen people with my melanin on Piers' show. I've proactively been asked to condemn Hamas. I condemn Hamas. I condemn Hezbollah. I condemn Islamic Jihad. I condemn Muslim Brotherhood. I condemn chocolate hummus. I condemn anti-Semitism. I condemn Islamophobia. I condemn white supremacy. I also condemn Israel's occupation. I condemn settler violence against Palestinians that have killed over 100 people on the West Bank. I condemn Netanyahu using dehumanizing language that you use, such as calling every Palestinian Amalek. I condemn the heritage minister saying that he wants to drop a nuke on Gaza. I have condemned all of that. Do you, Brooke, join me in condemning everything that I have condemned? Because I think as a human rights lawyer, anyone who cares about humanity, they should condemn everything that I have condemned.
Okay. Let's read some comments. It's getting hot in here. Where do you stand, Darth Vader? He's coming hard at her, though. I think he's one of the few that I've seen who condemns publicly Hamas on the Piers Morgan show. Doesn't necessarily mean he's not for Hamas. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, I don't know who he is well enough.
Yeah, at least he's publicly condemning. Yeah, he could be part of the same family. You know, he could be part of the propaganda. We don't know. Well, at least we can give him credit by saying at least he's coming out publicly and condemning it. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, even Cenk Uygur couldn't do that.
No, he could not. So I have to give him a little bit of credit here for doing that. But she's standing her ground firmly, though, because she's not a weakling. She's arguing much better than Cenk Uygur did. She's
to a degree. She keeps interrupting him, though.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's the problem. But she had laid some facts at the beginning, actually talking about him.
Right. I mean, as long as she's laid her facts out, at least give him his time to respond, and then she can respond back to his, and that's how you have a back and forth. You don't just talk over someone and interrupt them. Yeah,
the guy in the middle is Jewish, so he is somewhere in the middle. But he's like 2-on-1. I'm not sure if Piers Morgan, if you add Piers, he's like 3-on-1.
Right.
Because they're all going after her, if you're gonna notice. But anyway, you see what she does.
Lawyer, anyone who cares about humanity, they should condemn everything that I have condemned. Brooke,
100%.
do you condemn?
So why, if you condemn the Muslim Brotherhood, are you publishing with the Center for American Progress, which is strong ties to the Muslim Brotherhood? And why do you allow your papers to be cross-posted on Muslim Brotherhood websites? Why have you denied Jewish indigeneity to Judea?
Okay,
why
you know what, Brooke, I'm going to get it. I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to jump in here because we're straying. You keep mentioning.
And you say these things on television, but you write the exact opposite
Brooke, in your
writing.
I'm going to jump in and come to Glenn. He's been waiting very patiently as you guys have been going at it. Glenn, in a way, this kind of is reflective of the debate I thought we should be having. because it seems to me that a lot of people are simply not prepared to tolerate other views generally in society. We've got to a place where people get cancelled if they don't toe the line, don't have the opinion that a certain group of people have decided is the only opinion that's allowed. How have we got there? How has it been through this war? I mean, to me, watching Twitter, X as it now is in this war, is like this terrible assault on the brain. It's just people screaming in a self-righteous, often fake news-oriented way, trying to scream their opponents into submission. Where has honest democratic debate gone? What do we do about this?
Yeah, I think you're right that Brooke, your first guest, is a perfect reflection of what has gone so wrong with this discourse ever since October 7th. She did two things that has been really pathological in terms of how we're trying to conduct discourse about a very serious issue. Number one, she equates every person who criticizes Israel or who defends the Palestinian cause of being an Islamic Nazi or somehow being associated with terrorists, as she did with Wajahat, with whom I have a lot of differences, but he has never done anything like that. The idea that the Center for American Progress, can I?
You are doing exactly what
Center for
you're accusing me of
You
doing.
must let him
Which is
speak.
Are you
slandering.
able to
Brooke, you had a
listen
chance
to
to
other
speak. I
people?
want to hear from Glenn.
The idea that the Center for American Progress is some sort of crypto terrorist group, when in fact it is the most mainstream Democratic Party platform that hosted Benjamin Netanyahu, that completely supports Israel, just like the Democratic Party does, is derangement. And this attempt to accuse everyone of being a bigot or an anti-Semite the minute they express any criticism of Israel, I think is very toxic. But the worst thing, Piers, is that ever since a month ago when this started, we have had a spate of censorship throughout the West aimed only at one side, which is the pro-Palestinian side. France banned all pro-Palestinian protests. You can have pro-Israel protests. You can go and say you think Gaza should be flattened, that all Gazans should be eradicated, like many people say. What you can't do, though, is march in opposition to the French policy. The British Home Secretary said waving a Palestinian flag may be a crime. In the US, they're banning pro-Palestinian groups. So we can have our differences. Obviously, this is a very inflammatory issue, but what we should not do is try and suppress healthy debate through state censorship, through banning one side from expressing themselves, or accusing everybody of being a terrorist and a Nazi because they express criticism for the Israeli government, something which many Jews like myself and many Israelis do as well.
Man brings up a good point.
Yo, that's part of my argument again. The Jews are too quick to call everything anti-Semitic. Like when they went after Kyrie Irving, you remember that when they did what they did to Kyrie?
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna tell you what happened to the psyche of someone when you do that. You lose their support. If every time somebody does something and you quickly, this is the whole list that they give to Kyrie, right? When Kyrie Irving shared a link on his personal Twitter page and you call him anti-Semitic because he had a link to a book that had stuff that was negative about Jews, supposedly, right? That was extreme. And from my perspective is that when you begin to do stuff like this, irrespective of the fact what Hamas did to the Jews, and it was horrible what these people did. This is part of the reason why many people in the West are not willing to support the Jews. Now, the majority, do support the Jews from the West, from what I know. But there's a whole nother group who are like, nope, we're not supporting you. And part of the reason for that is too many Jewish people like to apply the word anti-Semitic to people who don't agree with them on anything. For example, George Soros was criticized by Elon Musk for what he's been doing to humanity because of the way that he's funding DAs that are corrupting our inner cities and everything. And by the way, Black and brown people are suffering the most in these cities, okay? So as soon as George Soros was called out for that, they call Elon Musk anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic. Jamie Foxx, he shared something about the Bible. Anti-Semitic. Kyrie Irving shared a link. Anti-Semitic. And I'm like, wait a minute, guys. Like when you do stuff like this, you lose people's support when there's a real anti-Semitic situation, they're not gonna rise and assist you and stand with you and stand by you. For me, I'm standing with the Jews because I don't think that way. But I'm just saying there's a whole bunch of other people whom you've blasted and called these names, and they're watching you doing it to other people like Kyrie Irving's. You lose these people for the rest of your life. They will never forgive you. And I think that's why the Jewish community, the pro-Israel movement, they need to understand this, and they need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Okay? They need to stop doing that. It's the same thing some black people are doing. Everything white people do, racist, racist, racist. But when there's real racism around, no white person is going to stand up to help you because you've been calling everybody's racist. You're crying. You're like the boy that's crying wolf all the time. You need to stop doing that. It's not good for you. And I think that's what they're experiencing now, which I'm not saying it's a good thing, but the lack of support that they're getting, those children in colleges that are like speaking against Jews and speaking for Palestine, it's all part of the smearing campaign that the Jewish pro-Israel movement has been doing for too long. They need to stop doing that.
I think most of those accusations and things that you'll find,
You have a good night, Creole.
those accusations are coming from like American Jewish people. Like, you're
Good point.
not going to see a lot of that from Israeli Jews.
You got it. So there is that left way. Well, it's leftist.
It's very much a leftist mentality that's been ingrained into
And they turn against
American Jews.
And they turn against their very own too.
Yeah.
It's not like
So,
the people whom they've been calling anti-Semitics, which were a lot of them were Republicans, but Republicans are the ones standing with the Israelites, with the Jews today.
yeah,
The left have completely abandoned them,
exactly.
and the Jews, majority of the Jews in the United States, were standing with the left and calling Republicans anti-Semitic. Now they're in trouble. The ones that are standing with them are the Republicans. It's very interesting how that goes.
So like I said, I think most of that is coming from like Americanized Jews versus actual Israeli Jews. I think there's a big distinction between the difference, like Jews you find over here versus Jews you find over there.
Huge difference.
Except for small sects here in America, you're going to find a huge difference between the two.
Got it.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is this woman is arguing hard like a leftist.
Yeah.
She's trying to act somebody who's like a conservative, but she acts more like
a liberal,
somebody who's extremely liberal and on the left side of the spectrum.
But she's using liberals' mannerism because, for example, trying to censor people,
talk over them.
Yeah, talk over them, a lot of emotionalism and everything. She has some facts, more facts than Cenk Uygur brought, but she's
trying to shout them down when they're talking.
Yeah, but he's going to roast her even more. Let's take a listen.
And many Israelis do as well.
Okay, let me go to Brooke.
No,
I want to ask Brooke. Brooke, I want to ask you a question. I'm actually.
Is this pro-Palestinian?
Okay, Brooke.
The murder and bludgeoning of a Jewish man at a pro-Hamas rally? These are not pro-Palestinian rallies. What is banned is pro-Hamas in Europe. Hamas is a designated terrorist group, and you should understand the difference between that. When you lock students in a library at Cooper's Union and bang on the door and threaten them with violence, that is not free speech. When you beat up Jews because you are projecting your hatred of a foreign government on somebody because of what they look like or what their religion is, that is bigotry. That is not free speech. And your other two guests want to cause this moral confusion.
Okay, she threw a bomb in the room right here. Okay, she got some good points. The pro-Palestinian crowd have shown over and over again they are the physical, violent, really completely irradical group. They've shown that. There's no denying it. I'm not saying Israel is innocent completely to the point where they've done nothing wrong. There's no such thing. I think both parties have a level of guilt. But the pro-Palestinian crowd, the protests that we see in the West, in many places around the world, listen, man, the stuff they're doing is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen. I know you're trying to say we were oppressed and all that, but you're going around to the Capitol. You're going around and desecrate some of our statues and everything. You calling death to America, and one of you's actually hurt and killed a man. Now there is another Palestinian person who's been killed as well, a child and a mother, which is still wrong. But the point is, the pro-Palestinian crowd have shown over and over again they are the most intolerant, bigot, mean, and cruel comparing to the Jews. At least what we see on record, what we see on the cameras, at least that's what's being shown. You could say I'm being propagandaed by the media. That could be another fact as well. What I'm saying is, based on my examination of the facts of what is being presented, they seem to be a very violent group of people.
I mean, it's not propagandist at all. I mean, it is what it is. You're calling a spade, and there's no reason for it. I mean, they're acting like Burn, Luke, murder, and
BLM, murder,
and Antifa.
Yep.
You know, it's just basically the same tactics they use. If they can't get you to be quiet by shouting you down, they're going to beat it out of you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, and it's sad to see.
Yeah.
Now, if anything's anti-Semitic, that is.
Mm-hmm. I agree. She's fighting back.
Your other two
Obviously, violence between violence is a crime.
Don't speak at once. I want to bring in Wajahat, please, to respond to that. Brooke, you can't just keep talking. You've made a powerful point.
Okay, so
Let me go to Wajahat for a response.
This is the big difference between you and me, Brooke, and there are many differences. That I have the capacity to empathize with the suffering of the Jewish people and with Palestinians. That when I see anti-Semitism, when I see Jews who are afraid in Europe and in America, I condemn it. When I see Muslims afraid of Islamophobia, I condemn it. When I see Wadia, who was a 6-year-old boy murdered simply because he was Palestinian American, I condemn it. When I see this man, this 69-year-old man, and they're researching it right now to see whether or not it was a hate crime, I will condemn it. The difference between me and you is that when I see dead children, when I see 4,000 Palestinian kids who are killed, it horrifies me. As a human rights lawyer, I'm amazed why this does not horrify you. When you see 4,000 kids killed, this is not shocking. For you, it's collateral damage. Right now, the IDF yesterday said, can I finish?
I'm sorry.
The IDF yesterday said, the IDF yesterday said, stop interrupting me. Please, IDF yesterday said that of the 10,000 people killed, only 60 were Hamas operatives. So that means that 10,000 people were killed by Israel in the past month, 4,000 children, more kids killed in the past month than in the past 3 years of all war zones, the conflict zones combined. I say it's inhumane and indecent. Do you condemn the 4,000 kids that have been killed? And as of yesterday, the IDF said only 60 people were Hamas operatives. Human rights lawyer, do you condemn it?
The pro-Israel and the pro-so-called Hamas-Palestinian movement is that we mourn the death of all civilians, where the pro-Palestinian Hamas protests after October the 7th were out on the street celebrating the death of dead Jewish civilians.
Powerful point again. Mm-hmm. She's fighting back. That is true. I mean, I respect the man, okay? But she's roasting him really, really bad. Hamas over and over again have shown that they glorify death rather than life. It's in their writings, it's in their behavior, and the way they dealt with these Jews. And I've condemned Hamas and what they've done and the teachings of Islam as well, because it fans the flame. Because these people went from home to complete innocent people who died without weapon and did what they did. That's an extreme way. What IDF and them are doing is different. Still wrong, but it's a different degree. they're not aiming at innocent people. Now, you might find videos of that where that happens, but that's not the goal. That's not the primary
intent.
That's not the intent. Yeah. That's what happens as a result of war, which is still sad and bad and wrong. But what Hamas did, they were very intentional. They were determined. They knew what they were doing. They went from home to home. They recorded it, and they had fun doing it. And they were eating after they threw grenades in the rooms, obliterated the whole family. This is a whole different degree of stuff we're talking about.
And let's not forget the fact that they're the ones that started it.
Yeah, that's the difference. I
mean,
I totally understand that. So I'm not denying all of that.
There's an old saying: mess around, you're gonna find out.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the difference.
So
and the other
ceasefire.
difference
All right,
between
let
you
me
is
bring
that
you-
you fail
Wait,
to
time out,
understand the
Time out, please. I want to
concept
bring. Sorry,
of cause and effect.
can you please?
You fail to understand
me.
the concept of cause and effect.
It remains my show at the moment.
All
right, Brooke, that's enough for now. I want to bring
At
Glenn
the
in.
moment.
Brooke, you've had a chance to respond.
International law is very
Brooke, you've
clear.
had a chance to
I'm sorry,
respond.
there's a
Please
delay.
respect
I'm sorry, there's a
the other
delay.
panelists.
Okay.
Glenn,
Yes.
I want to bring Glenn in.
I'm sorry.
Glenn,
So I just
let me ask Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn, you're
yeah, go ahead.
a Jewish man. When you look at what is going on here, I will be completely candid. I've said this to other guests in the last couple of weeks. I've found what happened on October the 7th to be an unbelievable scale of barbaric terrorism beyond anything I've seen in my lifetime, to be honest with you, the way it was done. And I completely understand Israel's not only right, but duty to defend itself. But is there a line here that Israel shouldn't cross in its attempt to eradicate Hamas? When you see 10,000 Palestinians killed within the space of 4 weeks, and we know it's going to get much, much higher, and
Pause.
so many are children.
Please pause.
Is there a moral line that Israel?
Yeah, these numbers have not been affirmed, have they?
So, number one, I don't know if they've been affirmed or not, but my response to that is this. The line that Israel shouldn't cross and has not been crossed yet is just basically wiping out everybody in the Gaza Strip from day one.
Mm-hmm.
They could have easily have done that,
Of course, they have the firepower.
but they didn't.
No, they did not.
They are using extreme restraint and targeted attacks to do what needs to be done.
True. I
So, given
That's a huge difference.
there's a huge difference between that and what Hamas has done, going in and provoking them in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Hamas went in wantonly and just mowing down everybody who got in their way. And meanwhile, Israel is trying to give precise direction to get innocent civilians out of harm's way, as many as they can, and do the right thing.
They're trying to.
As much as they can. But Hamas won't let these civilians get out of harm's way, and
I've
that's
heard them.
why there's so many.
They've even sacrificed some of their own people and blame the Jews for doing that,
Exactly.
which is kind of crazy. The people are trying to escape. They sacrifice them, and they say the Jews did this to them.
This
And
is,
again,
this
remember,
is
there's
how
no
these
journalists.
this is
There's
how
no
these
people.
people work.
Yeah, there's no journalists there, so they're making their own. That's why we shared a video earlier.
They make their own propaganda
They make their own propaganda and send it over to the news, and
because they
We
know
follow that.
the West will fall for it.
yeah.
And
Hey,
this is
Lauren,
what
too.
happens as a result.
Hey there,
Hey, Lauren.
good to see you. Good to have you. I know it's
But-
late at night, but we
I
are
mean,
going.
This is my thing is it's like this is what I'm saying to answer Pierce's question. Yes, the line that you don't cross is just blatantly carpet bombing the entire Gaza Strip and wiping out everyone there
Yeah,
and just taking it over,
true.
which is not what they're doing.
That will create even more radical Islamic groups. Out of
I mean-
animosity, they will just these children that this happened to, they will just wake up only to fight back. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a line that shouldn't be crossed by Israel, and they aren't crossing it. You see that in their tactics,
Mm-hmm.
coming from a military standpoint.
True. Wow.
But you don't see that in Hamas's tactics.
No, Hamas have no limit whatsoever. None.
Much higher. And so many are children. Is there a moral line that Israel shouldn't cross? Or is their argument that they've got to get rid of Hamas, and in war, you have collateral damage? And in this case, it's the civilians who are living around Hamas. And it's awful, but that's what has to happen.
Every decent person found the Hamas massacre on October 7th reprehensible and morally unjustifiable. The question, though, is what does that mean that everything that Israel does in response becomes justifiable? And the answer is clearly not. Just like everything the United States did in response to 9/11, which was also morally horrific and unjustifiable, killed 3,000 Americans. Everything that the United States did in response wasn't morally justifiable simply by virtue of the fact that they claimed to be doing it in the name of avenging 9/11. They tortured people. There were secret camps in Guantanamo. They invaded and destroyed Iraq, a country of 26 million people, giving rise to ISIS. The laws of war were created after World War II, ironically, when the world looked at what happened in World War II, the atrocities there, and said, we know there are going to be wars, but there have to be limits. You cannot collectively punish a population. That is a war crime because certain people in that country have done bad things. You cannot just bomb people indiscriminately without regard to civilian life. And how many tens of thousands or even 100,000 Palestinians does Israel have the right to kill in the name of trying to destroy Hamas? Of course, there are humanitarian limits and laws of war that were created after World War II that the Nuremberg Tribunal said apply to every country in the future, no matter how just your cause. And I thought that was the lesson of 9/11, that just because a country is enraged and acting with a quest for violence doesn't mean that everything they do in the name of avenging that terrorist attack becomes justifiable or morally defensible.
Okay.
Much of what the United States did wasn't, and much of what Israel's doing isn't either.
Okay.
Okay. That's another thought.
Oh, okay. Now, what do you do?
That's part of my argument earlier. I don't know. We got to work with that, I guess. Work with that. Let's keep going. Let's bring the video.
So, well, here's the thing
Go ahead.
is when Israel went into Afghanistan to try to find Osama bin Laden
Mhm.
and take out the Taliban. Obviously, we didn't study history enough because we would have realized that that was like an impossible feat. Because that's where Afghanistan's like the land where every army goes to die.
This is crazy.
It's just been historically the way it's been. But the idea of going over there and doing what we did, him calling it what we did over there, we brought those people more good than we did harm.
Okay.
Driving through the streets over there, we would have kids running up to the trucks and just being like, chocolate, chocolate, and start singing our national anthem. Like, most of the civilians appreciated us being there. They felt safer with us there than under the prior regime.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
I don't know where he's coming from with this, but from somebody who was there for 3 years, I can tell you that wasn't my experience.
Yeah. Julian Assange, right? When he released those videos of what happened there, I mean, totally threw everything upside down. The way some of the soldiers went, there was an extreme side to this whole thing, right? We can agree. I don't believe every American person that went there was doing that, but that's another thing to also consider. I'm guessing that might be the implication as well. Yeah, but what you just said here just add a lot more context to it because you've had first hands-on experience with it, so there's no refuting that. So
yeah, like he has. I don't know if he went over there as a journalist or something and maybe saw stuff or what, but whatever he saw, I guarantee it wasn't from us.
yeah, it wasn't the full story either.
Yeah,
Agreed.
like the things they did to their own people was horrific.
Yeah,
and they loved us for being there.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Okay.
Well, much of what the United States did wasn't, and much of what Israel's doing isn't either.
Okay, Glenn. Powerful words.
Piers,
Thank you for
may I
joining
make
me.
one important point, if you don't mind?
we've run out of time, but I will get you back on the program because you've been a terrific guest tonight. I've enjoyed that debate. It's been
last
fiery.
thing I just want to say is that Jews have led the protests. Jews have actually led the protests.
You said it.
Jews calling for a
You said it, and I appreciate it.
Consider them to be
England
Hamas.
has no
Okay, I've got to
conception of
leave
the
it
laws
there.
of
I'm
armed
sorry,
conflict.
Pat.
Hamas
Thank you
is
very
putting
much indeed to my
civilians in
panel.
harm's way,
I
specifically
appreciate you
so
all
Glenn can go on
joining me. Glenn, Brooke.
Oh man, well, this was a great discussion though. That's why I brought it to the channel because there's a lot of food for thought here, but I don't think it was that complicated.
I don't know of any Jews that are going to be calling for a ceasefire until Hamas is eliminated.
Yeah. You know what I also do believe? I think when Hamas is completely eliminated, a lot of Palestinian people are going to come out and be very grateful. I think a lot of them are quiet now. They're not showing how grateful they are. But I think some people, even after they lost homes, some of them are going to come out and say, you know what? Thank you. Some of them, I believe that.
And some of them may end up becoming more like Hamas.
That's another extreme. And I think we can expect both.
Yeah.
Yeah.